Have you ever heard of the Google Search Console? Heck, maybe you're like, what is it? How does it even help? It is basically Google's way of showing and telling you how it sees your website and ultimately how much traffic you are going to get. So stay tuned. I want to share with you guys how to read it, how to understand it, and ultimately how to make some way better improvements for you to get the best results possible. Hey, what is up, guys? It is Harrison Barron, the Millennial Entrepreneur, and like I said, we are going to be diving into Google Search Console today. Now, if you don't have a Google Search Console, I highly recommend setting it up. I will leave a link down below, but ultimately, the goal is to get you to set up a Google Search Console. Now, this is highly applicable to people that either own a business or are building websites. Either way, you probably need access to both of these. When I say businesses, somebody has built your website for you. Make sure you get access to it. Chances are pretty good they slacked and they didn't set it up for you. That's no good. Number two is if you're building websites for you or other people, you're definitely going to want to set this up. It is a massive value add that takes a total of about 3 minutes to do. Either way, this is incredibly important for you. I'm so excited about this because it's just a great thing. Now, what we are going to be covering today is ultimately how to read it, how to understand it, and how to make the best decisions possible for you and your website. That is it. That is all we are covering. So if you're like, hey, I really was hoping for some crazy stuff, probably not this video. But if you have any interest in understanding how Google works, this is absolutely something you need to watch. So we're going to dive into my computer in one moment, and I want to share with you guys everything that you need to know. But ultimately, like I said, Google Search Console is just the way that the data is displayed, so that way you can see how Google is actually showing it out. Now, why Google? Well, Google has about 97.5% market share in the United States. For my international people, it is still extremely high, although I don't have the exact numbers. But in the United States, about 97.5% of all searches are made on Google. So most of your data is going to be coming directly from this. It's going to show you guys how you showed up in search, all your clicks, ultimately where you're standing as far as your search results, and what's been happening in the past versus what's happening now. And then overall, the amount of people that are clicking through, your click-through rate, which is probably the most important thing. I'm going to be covering that at the end, so you're definitely going to not want to miss that, because changing some things will drastically increase the amount of people that visit your website, and I want to share with you how to do that. So let's jump into my computer here and go through. And like I said, I'm very excited. That's why I'm talking fast. I apologize. I will slow down now. Welcome to your Google Search Console. Now, if you've never been here before, welcome. If you are a veteran here and you're looking to understand this better, welcome back. So in here, typically when you load it up, it's going to load into the overview. Now, I personally don't love this overview. It helps, but it's not great. And you're going to see here there is a massive dip in pages, which is exactly what I wanted, because I changed some stuff up and I migrated platforms. For many of you that have been watching this, I was recently on Kajabi, and now I am currently on Webflow. Took me a second to realize that. But it's just going to give you a quick little overview of everything that you're going to need to know about this platform, which is phenomenal, right? This is vital data that you're going to need to know about. I'm going to shrink myself down here so that way I don't block too much here. But this is what's going to happen right when you load in. The real important part is your performance. This is probably the most important thing to look at out of this entire video, right? Is just your graph, really. So it comes pre-highlighted with your clicks and your impressions. Now, your impressions are when somebody searches a query. They go into Google, they type in, I don't know, let's just say zebras. If I type in zebras, you will see here that this is a query, right? I've typed in zebras, and all of these are now getting impressions as they've been on the page for multiple seconds. If I fly past it, doesn't count as a query. It has to be on there for a couple seconds. Now, what Google's assuming you're doing is you're probably reading the titles and then a little description underneath, which is called your meta description. So that is an impression, and if I was to click one of them, let's just go to National Geographic here. Now I'll go through and it'll count as a click towards that one article about zebras, right? I'm assuming it's an article. Very cool. So in here, this is what it's showing you. Now, your average click-through rate is the average of all of your pages. These are all of your pages, and then your average position. So this is, once again, all of your pages. If you're adding pages all of the time, chances are pretty good it's going to be on the lower side. If you're not adding pages and your website's kind of leveled out after a while, this is probably going to be a bit higher. It just depends on who you are and what level your website is in. For me, I'm constantly adding new articles, typically multiple times a month, so my average position is usually much lower along with my click-through rate, and I'm okay with that. It's something I know about. So in here, you'll be able to see your queries. Now, these are all the queries that you are currently ranking for on Google. I'm going to share with you guys all about that, but right now we're just going to go top to bottom here. We have pages that you're currently showing for and what pages are getting the attention. You have your countries in here, then you have your devices, right? Search appearance, how you're showing up, videos versus web light results, and then you have your dates in here, which is also phenomenal. So this is just going to go through day by day, breaking it down, all of the metrics that you're probably curious to know anyway. But that's it. That is how you read your performance area. I'm going to be doing a deeper dive in one moment, but this is how to understand it. Now, coverage. This is important. It's just going to show you guys the pages that are covered. So currently I have one error. I know what it is already. It's a 404 error, right? It says it right here, soft 404 error, meaning one of the pages, because we migrated, can no longer be found. It's something that'll work itself out. I'm really not worried about that. But if that number is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 100, I'd be really, really concerned. Valid with warning, you have valid, so there's currently 373 pages that are considered valid, and then you have 585 pages that are considered excluded. That just means that they're either not ready, Google doesn't care about them yet, whatever it may be. Either way, it just means that they're excluded. Doesn't mean anything bad, just means Google hasn't really sunk its teeth into it yet. Next, we're going to have your sitemap. This is ultimately the roadmap for Google to go to. So if I go into harrisonbarron.com, I go back up here, I do /sitemap.xml. This is exactly what you're going to be posting up there. You copy that, you post it in your sitemap URL, and ultimately it's going to populate. For this, I did this 2 days ago. It read it 2 days ago. It knows I haven't updated any new articles lately in the last 2 days at least. And then you'll see here the sitemap for the HTTP, not the without the S. And then the about couldn't fetch, no big deal. It's all good. That was just something I was testing March 22nd of 2020. As you could tell, last read it still couldn't fetch it. That's totally fine. But ultimately, this is a roadmap for Google to see everything, where it is, who to know about, who not to know about, and it's going to go through and find each one of these links. And you can actually go through and grab one of these links, and you can see that it's actually going to pull up, right? Thrive After COVID. Hey, look at that. That's an article I wrote on July 26th. July 20. That's actually a new article. It's not really a new article, but we cut over from a different platform. But in here, you'll be able to see it's just going to give you all of the information you could possibly want on a website. Hint, hint, if you're looking for discounts, deals, maybe things that the company doesn't want the public to know about, you can go in here and find that. I never told any of this to you, but you can get some great deals on some things because people forget to take everything down. Then you're going to have your removals. Your removals are just things that you want to remove from Google. If you're changing domains, like we did from Barron Media Group to Growth Generators, you would want to remove it from Google so that Google stops sending traffic to it, and you can tell Google, hey, here's the new domain. Then you have your page experience. You need several thousand clicks per month. So if you're not getting this, you are not getting enough traffic. Don't worry about it. It's all good. Then you have your core web vitals. This is incredibly important. You want Google to understand and see that, hey, there is no damage happening, right? So as you can see, no damage is currently happening. You will get random flare-ups depending on how Google feels that day, so don't sweat it. But if you get an exorbitant amount and they're not coming down, you're probably going to want to look into what's causing those issues. Then you have your mobility usage, right? 42 valid, 0 errors, right? Just making sure that your pages are going to be okay to view on mobile. You have your videos. If there's any videos that are embedded on your website in any area, that's that. And now this is all really nothing important that we need to go through right now. Security, legacy tools. I'm not going to dive into this so that way I don't expose any potential information, but that's ultimately it, right? You can go through here and see all this. Now, I am going to cover the most important part, which is your performance. In here, you can see your queries, your pages, your countries, devices, and search appearance. The cool part is if you highlight all 4 of these, you can scroll down and you could start to actually see all of the data inside of here. So pros and cons of Alignable is an article that I'm getting a significant amount of traffic from, or at least a decent amount of traffic currently. We have LinkedIn Messages Private, right? Our podcast live, LinkedIn Premium Benefits. These are all different areas. Now it's giving me a ton of data here. We can see the position that it's currently averaging at over the last 3 months. We can see the average click-through rate, the impressions, and the amount of clicks over the last 3 months. If you're curious, you can set this for 7 days, 28 days, 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, and it goes as far back as 16 months. Anything before that, you will not see any data. So for people that were like, well, you're not getting that much traffic. I made quite a big improvement, and I continue to grow over time. And you can actually see that some of this is actually going to change, right? LinkedIn premium costs. You'll see here that I've gotten 1 click on it, 4,000 impressions, currently sitting at position 63, because it's averaging over the last 16 months. But if I was curious, I could do the last 28 days, and it's going to give me the last information from the last 28 days. Pros and cons of Alignable, LinkedIn premium benefits, Indeed versus LinkedIn, benefits of LinkedIn Premium, our podcast live, and ultimately I have 1,000 keywords that I'm showing up for minimum. It's far more than that at this point because I do have quite a bit of articles on there. But this is how you can go through. Now, this is the same for your pages. You can see all of this data, but ultimately, and same with countries, devices, you want these all lit up. But the important part is, if you're curious to know what pages are showing up for what data, you can go back through pages, and we can just search the Anchor FM podcast review. What it's doing is it's separating that data out from everything else out there. Now, if I go to queries, it's actually going to show me all of the 269. There you go, so you can see it down there. 269 queries that we're currently showing up for on this one article. So this one article is responsible for 137 clicks in the last 28 days with 7,000 impressions, an average click-through rate of 1.9, and an average position over all of the queries of 21.6. So depending on what you're searching for, you'll actually be able to see that you show up for some of this. So Anchor upload limit. If we take this, we copy and paste it into Google, theoretically, we should see ourselves somewhere up there. And there you go. Number 3, Anchor.fm podcast, should you jump on this free platform. There it is, right? This is the data that you're probably going to want to use. Now, you can go through, and I highly encourage you play around with this and mess around, but the queries that you're going to find are actually pretty interesting. And if you might see something that you're like, hey, where does this go to, right? And I'm going to find one that I actually do not know. So create LinkedIn company page without personal profile. Okay, I really don't even remember that. So this query is linking to this LinkedIn company page blog. If I wanted to see it, I could simply open it up. Company pages. I barely even remember writing this, but that's okay. Great little article. Obviously ranking on Google for something, right? We have position 9.7. And if I was curious to see what queries I was actually showing up for, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click that link right there, and I'm going to remove the query and keep the page. And now I'm currently showing up for 253 results on this one single page. And you'll be able to see here 9.7, 30.9, 26, 33. Am I ranking? I am ranking in the top 10 for create a LinkedIn company page without personal profile. We can go in here, we can search it, and I should be right around the bottom. Oh, I'm not on the bottom anymore. So Google's constantly testing, and that's okay. Google's constantly testing to see where you belong on here. So if I go to page number 2, I'm probably sitting right around the top. Maybe not. Who knows? Can we find ourselves? Harrison? Nope. So Google's just not testing it right now, and that's okay. This is normal. This is what Google's job is to do. It is simply to just find out where you belong, and that's fine. It says I'm at position 9.7, and if I click on this and you see an incomplete orange line, you will have a great idea that Google has not yet figured out exactly where you belong. When you have a solid line for a long period of time, this is Google's way of telling you, hey, we know that we know where you belong pretty much in the algorithm at this point. So pros and cons of Alignable. If I remove all of this, you'll see a pretty solid line here that I'm sitting around position 3 to position 2.8. And if we search that again, we can go in here. Pros and cons of Alignable, and I should be sitting right there. It is. Number 2. That is the best part about this. So I've got 19 clicks, 312 impressions. Average position is 2.9, and Google's constantly testing it. So how do I make that better, right? I wanted to tell you guys that, and that's something really, really important for you guys to know, is how do you make that better? Well, there's a couple things. One, the higher you get on Google, the better quality article you have, the higher likelihood it is that you're going to be placed higher. The closer to number 1, the chances of you getting an actual click are significantly higher than it would be without that. Now, the other thing that you could do is start playing around with that title of your article. So we have LinkedIn versus Alignable, what you need to know to succeed. And then you'll see in here a little blurb about what that page is. That is your meta description. This is incredibly important because this is what people are going to be reading to figure out whether or not they should click on it. So what you do is you go into your website editor, you can go through, play around with this, mess around with it, and watch your stats. They will go up, they will go down. Either way, as long as you're getting a reaction from Google, this is always going to be a good thing. And if you look at it, I'll show you the 12 months on this one specific keyword, and you'll see. I mean, it was dots, dots, dots for a while, and then Google kind of figured it out, right? I was position 3 here, and now I'm still sitting at position 3 over the lifetime of this article, which is phenomenal. So write more content, go through, play around with this. This is incredibly important because modifying and adjusting those titles and descriptions, as long as it needs it, is going to drastically increase the chances of you getting more clicks, more visitors, more potential sales, and more interest in your business. Either way, it's always going to be a good thing. So I hope you guys found value in this video. I know this is probably one of my more boring videos, but I thought it was really, really important for you to actually understand how to do this. And I haven't quite found a great guide out there that'll teach you everything that you need to know. So I highly encourage you guys, once again, go play with this. Just go to Google Search Console, and just start playing around with it. Click around. You're probably not going to break anything because there's really not anything to break. And that's it. I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll see you guys later.